Today we're going to read Horton Hatches the Egg by Dr. Seuss. Sighed Maisie, a lazy bird hatching an egg. I'm tired and I'm bored, and I've got kinks in my legs from just sitting here day after day. It's a work. How I hate it. I'd much rather play. I'd take a vacation, fly off for a rest. If I could find someone to stay on my nest, if I could find someone, I'd fly away, free. Horton the elephant passed by her tree. Hello, called the lazy bird, smiling her best. You've got nothing to do, and I do need a rest. Would you like to sit on my egg in my nest? The elephant laughed. Why, of all silly things, I haven't feathers and I haven't wings. Me on your egg? Why, that doesn't make sense. Your egg is so small, ma'am, and I am so intense. Tut tut, answered Maisie. I know you're not small, but I'm sure you can do it. No trouble at all. Just sit on it softly. You're gentle and kind. Come, be a good fellow. I know you won't mind. I can't, said the elephant. Please, begged the bird. I won't be gone long, sir. I give you my word. I'll hurry right back. Why, I'll never be missed. Well, very well, said the elephant, since you insist. You want a vacation, go fly off and take it. I'll sit on your egg. I'll try to not break it. I'll stay and be faithful. I mean what I say. Toodaloo, sang Maisie as she fluttered away. The first thing to do, muttered Horton. Let's see. The first thing to do is prop up this tree and make it much stronger. That has to be done. Before I get on it, I must weigh a ton. Then carefully, tenderly, gently he crept up the trunk to the nest where the little egg slept. Then Horton the elephant smiled. Now that's that. He sat, and he sat, and he sat, and he sat. And he sat all that day, and he kept the egg warm, and he sat all that night through a terrible storm. It poured and it lightened, it thundered and it rumbled. This isn't much fun, the poor elephant grumbled. I wish she'd come back, 'cause I'm cold and wet. I hope Maisie, the bird, doesn't forget. But Maisie by this time was far beyond reach, enjoying the sunshine way off in Palm Beach. She was having such fun, such a wonderful rest, but decided she'd never go back to her nest. Oh no. So Horton kept sitting there day after day, and soon it was autumn. The leaves blew away, and then came the winter, the snow and the sleet. The icicles hung from his trunk and his feet, but Horton kept sitting and said with a sneeze, I'll stay on this egg, and I won't let it freeze. I said what I meant, and I meant what I said. An elephant's faithful, 100%. Poor Horton. So poor Horton sat there the whole winter through, and then came springtime with troubles anew. His friends gathered round, and they shouted with glee, "Look, Horton the elephant's up in a tree!" They taunted and teased him, they yelled, "How absurd! Old Horton the elephant thinks he's a bird!" They laughed and they laughed. They all ran away, and Horton was lonely. He wanted to play, but he sat on the egg and continued to say, "I meant what I said, and I said what I meant." An elephant's faithful, 100%. No matter what happens, this egg must be tended. But poor Horton's troubles were far from ended. For a while Horton sat there, so faithful, so kind. 3 hunters came sneaking up softly behind. He heard the men's footsteps. He turned with a start. 3 rifles were aiming right straight for his heart. Oh no, Horton. Did he run? He did not. Horton stayed on his nest. He held his head high and threw out his chest. He looked at the hunters, as much as to say, "Shoot if you must, but I won't run away. I meant what I said, and I said what I meant. An elephant's faithful, 100%. But the men didn't shoot. Much to Horton's surprise, they dropped their 3 guns and then stared with wide eyes. "Look," they all shouted. Can such a thing be? An elephant sitting on top of a tree? It's strange, it's amazing, it's wonderful, it's new. Don't shoot him, we'll catch him." "That's just what we'll do. Let's take him alive. Why, he's terribly funny. We'll sell him back home to the circus for money." And the first thing he knew, they had built a big wagon with ropes in the front and pullers to drag on. They dug up the tree and put it inside with Horton so sad he practically cried. "We're off," the men shouted, and off they all went, with Horton unhappy, 100%. Poor Horton. Up out of the jungle, up into the sky, up over the mountains, 10,000 feet high, then down the mountains and down to the sea, where the elephant cart, went the elephant cart, the egg, the nest, and the tree. Then out of the wagon and on to a ship over the ocean, and oh, what a trip! Rolling and tossing and splashing and spray. And Horton said day after day, "I meant what I said, and I said what I meant. But, oh man, am I seasick? 100%. After bobbing around for 2 weeks like a cork, they landed, at last, in the town of New York. All ashore the men shouted, and down with a lurch went Horton the elephant, still on his perch, tired onto a board that could just scarcely hold him. Bump! Horton landed, and then the man sold him. Sold to a circus. Then week after week they showed him to people at 10 cents per peek. They took him to Boston, to Kalamazoo, Chicago, Winnetka, and Washington too, to Daytona, Ohio, St. Paul, Minnesota, to Wichita, Kansas, to Drake, North Dakota. And everywhere thousands of folks flocked to see and laughed at an elephant up in a tree. Poor Horton grew sadder the farther he went, but he said as he sat in the hot, noisy tent, I meant what I said, and I said what I meant. An elephant's faithful, 100%. Then one day the circus show happened to reach a town way down south, not far from Palm Beach, and drooling along way up high in the sky, who of all people should chance to fly by but that good-for-nothing bird, Runaway Maisie, still on vacation, still just as lazy. And spying the flags in the tents below, she sang, "Ooh, what fun! Why, I'll go to the show." And she swooped from the clouds through an open tent door. "Good gracious," gasped Maisie, "I've seen you before." Poor Horton looked up with his face white as chalk. He started to speak, but before he could talk, they rang out the noisiest, ear-slitting squeal from the egg that he'd sat on for 51 weeks. It's thumping and bumping, a wild, alive scratching. "My egg!" shouted Horton. "My egg! Why, it's hatching!" "But it's mine!" screamed the bird when she heard the egg crack. The work was all done. Now she wanted it back. "It's my egg," she spouted. "You stole it from me. Get off of my nest. Get out of my tree." Poor Horton backed down with a sad, heavy heart. Oh, poor Horton. But that very instant, the egg burst apart, and out of the pieces of red and white shell, from the egg that he sat on for so long and so well, Horton the elephant saw something whiz. It had ears and a tail and a trunk just like his. And the people came shouting, "What's all this about?" They looked and they started and they stared with their eyes popping out. Then they cheered and they cheered and they cheered more and more. "They've never seen anything like this before. My goodness, my gracious," they shouted. "My word, it's something brand new. It's an elephant bird." And It should be, it should be. It should be like that, because Horton was faithful. He sat and he sat. He meant what he said, and he said what he meant. And they sent him home happy, 100%.